Hey everybody, how's it going? In this one, I'm going to talk about, you know, what things are currently like, right? Um, Basically, living together after you've decided to, you know, divorce. How has that been? Um, what was amazing to me is, aside from a few differences, how little day to day life has changed from before I told her to after. And what do I mean by how little has it changed? Well, um, clearly her behaviors have not changed that, led to the demise of this in the first place. Those are still steady as ever. Um, it's not like she's doing all that much less than before because she didn't do all that much before at all. So, not much of a drop off as far as what she's doing, because that's just kind of the sad, pathetic state that we were in for a long time that led to the demise of it, right? Now, there are some things that are worse. We now have more potent and frequent fights. Um, it's kind of amazing watching the evolution of things here for about the past 2 months. Because when I first told her that it was happening, she was constantly begging me for another chance. You know, and I actually genuinely felt a little bit bad for her the first week after I told her, because for the first week after I told her, and this was back in May, so this was a little while ago now, she actually seemed like she was sad and depressed and really just not doing well as a result of me telling her. So I felt a little bad, right? I was actually starting to question myself just a little bit, just a teeny, tiny bit. And then we had a mask off moment, right? And basically where she was right up to her old tricks, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I'm sure she acted entitled or something, right? She pulled some bullshit essentially, and ever since that, and that of course immediately evaporated all of the you know tiny amount of sympathy I had slash remote questioning of the decision, right? It was just instant, boom, gone. And ever since then, the mask has not went back up even for a moment. You know, it's been absolute. She would alternate. Oh, she would tell me I'm flushing 15 years down the toilet, that she would never do it to me, etc., etc., etc. And she's like, doesn't have to be over. Well, what are you gonna do? Well, it's just basically, I'm getting, I hate you, don't leave me. Right? Um, okay, sure. That's totally gonna work out well. Very recently, I actually, yeah, this would have been yesterday. We had she came in, um, down here because I had done some yard work, and the entire time she's lived here, she has never done any yard maintenance ever. This is just one example of her behavior. So, what she's done is she'll plant things and then she'll just leave the things and not do any maintenance ever. Of course, it's all up to me, right? And so I was doing some long overdue yard work yesterday, and I tore out a rose bush that was a little bit loose in the ground, right? And just threw it out, right? Well, actually, my daughter did. She was helping with me doing the yard work, etc., etc., threw it out. Don't think anything of it. Couple hours later, she stomps, in, and she's like, did you throw, screaming her head off at me about this rose bush. right? About how it was an expensive rose bush, that even though I'm the one who's staying here in this home, she's like, I was going to take that rose bush with me. You know, you owe me money for this rose, and just screaming at me at the top of her lungs. You know, that's just one example of countless examples I have of, you know, behavior, right? Another thing that's been happening is the whole lawyer situation. Initially, when I hired my lawyer, I, you know, knew that I could do what's called a collaborative divorce, which is where you both use the same lawyer, et cetera, et cetera. So I talked to my wife about it, and this was, I don't know, maybe about, by the amount of time that had passed, almost a month since I had told her, you know, I was wanting a divorce, right? And she knew for 2 weeks prior to the meeting that this meeting was coming, that we were going to go talk to this lawyer, learn about the process, etc., etc. For 2 weeks ahead of time, she knew this was coming up. And the day before, I say to her, hey, you know, we have this meeting tomorrow. Do you want to, like, brainstorm some ideas for questions? Is there anything in particular you want to know? No. Do you want to look at anything up? No. You know, and that's essentially what happened. And I'm just like, oh, great. So we go to the lawyer's office, and the entire time, instead of participating in any meaningful way, she sits there and she cries. She simply cries the entire time. Infuriating, right? I try to ask the lawyer questions that I think she might want to know the answer to. During the meeting, my lawyer was, just trying to be a human being, and he could tell that my wife was upset, and he doesn't know my wife the way that I do. She uses crying as an emotional manipulation tactic, right? He doesn't know that. Of course, I'm not going to cause a scene in the meeting. I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, is this really happening, right? And he tries to be a human being, and he says to her, hey, I've seen in this collaborative process more than once couples who collaborate so well that they ultimately decide not to get divorced. And when he said that, I'm like, because I knew that is all she would hear, right? Period. Like, she hears a statement like that, then that's just going to be what's in her head, right? So, of course, for another week or so, that's all I got. Well, the lawyer said that sometimes, and I'm just like, yeah, because people actually cooperate on things. Collaboration, cooperate, whatever. You have not cooperated with me for 10 years on anything much. I don't think, and of course, she, during this time, locked down and cooperated less. And I told her, so unfortunately, one thing the lawyer said that set me back with time a little bit is he said, hey, if the collaborative process can't go through, you need to hire other attorneys. And I'm just like, my level of frustration at that moment was extremely high. So what I did is I gave my wife the number of the phone numbers, the referrals he gave for her, and the referrals he gave to me. I called him up, and I was, by this time, a little more time had passed, and I was ready to hire the secondary lawyer. I had vetted him. I thought he would represent me well, the whole 9 yards. So, great. I was just on the cusp, and then my wife says to me, I'll just give you the collaborative divorce. Oh, thanks for the gift, hon. So I've got a meeting scheduled for this coming Friday with the original lawyer again, because, he can do it if, it's collaborative. If I get the exact same result again, or either that, or more likely if she just is completely combative, non-cooperative, etc., etc., whatever. I'm just gonna, obviously, I'm not gonna give her another chance to, do this again. I'm just gonna, right? I'll immediately end the meeting, and I'll ask for a refund of my retainer for lawyer number one, and then I'll go hire lawyer number two, and it'll go that route. I don't know how that's gonna be, but we'll see. But that's kind of the current going ons of the circumstances. Now my emotional state, how's it been? I've told the story on this channel a few times about when my mother lived with me for a few months. Maybe I have. But when she did, it was absolute hell. And it's now basically reached that level with my wife. In fact, we had a really big blowout argument the other day, and she said, well, I'll just stay here until the divorce is final just to make your life miserable. Then I called her a bad name, we'll just say, and then she, freaked, whatever, that's neither here nor there. It was ridiculous, but that just gives you an idea of the level it's at. Since that incident, though, I've learned that escalating, responding in kind, it's tempting with human nature, but it's not it's not what I would call a recommended thing. It pretty much always just makes the situation worse. So now, because she's come at me several times, like, for example, the whole, the Rosebush story, right? When she comes at me now, I don't respond in kind anymore. I just look at her and I say, well, that's your opinion, or, this is the circumstances, whatever. I respond in a very straightforward way, but I don't respond in kind. I don't escalate in that. And she still acts, the way she does, but it's less intense. So that's what I'm doing. We'll see. So anyway, the real next test will be when this meeting is and how that goes and all that. But before I go, a little bit more about the emotional state. I'll just show you guys on camera here. I am now I'm now sleeping in this room, right? Previously, I was still sleeping in the same bed with my wife, and the reason I felt comfortable doing that is because, intimacy was definitely not a thing with me and her for a long time. And when we were trying, neither here nor there, right? So I wasn't worried about anything like that happening because it just wouldn't, right? So, but what's happened since she's been here, right, after the whole, hey, we're getting divorced thing, my aversion to being around her has grown and grown and grown and grown to now where if I lay down to go, if I know that, like, late at night I'm tired, right, but if I'm going to go get into bed with her, my body will produce a very strong stress response. It'll wake me up. It'll give me a whole lot of negative thoughts and all this and all that, and I won't be able to sleep for a long time. So I blew up the trusty air mattress, set it up down here, and I've been sleeping like a baby. So much better circumstances for me. Not ideal, obviously, but it beats being sleep deprived. So that's kind of my current state. It's not great, obviously, but holding a little steady. As far as a transition plan out, we are heavily kind of working on it. There's one place in particular she wants to get. It looks like she'll probably be able to get in there. It's just I don't know the date yet, so hopefully I learn more this coming week. If any interesting happenings, I'll just make another update vid, especially I won't give again the details of the legal case, but I'll tell you at least if she cooperated or not, right? So anyway, that's it. I know this was kind of all over the place, and just a lot of personal anecdotes and points of view. But like I said, the reason I make these is I hope they help someone out there in this situation who's going through it. So anyway, that's it. I hope you guys got something out of this. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you next time.